photograph that does not exist. No one in Thornwood, Ohio ever thought to take it. It would have shown a man in a grey uniform, on his knees, fixing a jammed locker before the first bell rang, 40 minutes before anyone else arrived. For 42 years, that was the only version of Walter Higgins that anyone in this town ever saw. Thornwood was the kind of town that showed up on a map only because a rail line used to pass through it. Population just under 3,000. One stoplight downtown, a diner that had changed names 4 times but never changed its pie recipe, and a school that had educated every family in town for 3 generations. Nothing much happened in Thornwood, and most of the people who lived there liked it that way. It was not a place where anyone expected a fortune to be hiding. That was, in its own way, exactly why it worked. Walter came to Ashford Elementary School in the fall of 1975. He was 26 years old. He had grown up 2 counties over, the son of a coal truck driver who worked himself into an early grave and left behind nothing but unpaid bills and a boy who made himself 2 promises. He would never owe a man money he couldn't repay, and he would never let a child feel as small as he once had. He never married. He never had children of his own, but he had 400 of them every single year for 42 years straight. He knew their names. He knew which ones came to school with torn shoes in November and which ones needed an extra 5 minutes at lunch because nobody was waiting for them at home. He noticed everything, and he said almost nothing. His paycheck was never much, $6,200 a year when he started, just under $34,000 when he finally retired. By every measure this town used to size a man up, Walter Higgins was supposed to end his life with nothing to show for it. Instead, he did something so quiet, so deliberately invisible, that not one person in Thornwood ever suspected it. Not the school board, not the teachers whose classrooms he swept every night, not even Ruth Calloway, the school secretary who brought him coffee every morning for 20 years and thought she knew him better than anyone. Every payday, Walter walked 3 blocks to Thornwood Savings and Trust, and he set aside $12. Just 12. It felt almost embarrassing, he'd admit years later, to call that an investment. But he had read something once in an old magazine somebody left behind in the teacher's lounge, and it stayed with him for the rest of his life. Steady beats clever. And time is the one thing a poor man can still spend exactly like a rich one. So Walter found a broker 2 towns over, a careful man named Elliot Marsh, who never asked why a school janitor wanted his statements mailed to a post office box instead of his own front door. The first time Walter sat across from him, he brought exactly $40 in an envelope and asked, plainly, what a man could do with that if he never touched it again. Elliot could have laughed him out of the office. Instead, he pulled out a legal pad and started explaining, compounding the way a patient teacher explains long division, slowly and without condescension. Walter listened to every word and wrote none of it down because he didn't need to. He only needed to understand it once. Walter began to buy Coca-Cola, Procter & Gamble, a little of the regional power company. Later, when the choice became simpler, a broad market index fund that Elliot recommended once and that Walter never questioned again. He didn't trade. He didn't check the paper every morning. He didn't panic in 1987 when the market fell out from under everyone in a single afternoon, or in 2000 when the dot-com boom collapsed and half of Elliot's other clients called in a panic demanding to sell. Walter didn't call. He didn't have to. He'd already decided years earlier that his plan didn't depend on any particular Tuesday going well. In the fall of 2008, when the financial system seemed to be unraveling on the evening news every single night, Elliot finally called Walter himself, half expecting to talk him off a ledge. Walter answered on the second ring, thanked him for checking in, and asked only one question. Had the $12 still gone in that month? It had. Good, Walter said. Then there's nothing to talk about. He hung up and went back to salting the front walk of the school. Because it was November and the sidewalk needed doing before the buses arrived. He kept showing up on payday with $12, then $20, then $40. as the years allowed. And every deposit, every dividend, every year's total, he wrote down by hand in a plain black and white composition notebook. The same kind the school gave to 8-year-olds on the first day of 3rd grade. He liked that detail. He never explained why. He wasn't hiding a secret exactly. He simply never gave anyone a reason to ask. And in a small town, if you never give people a reason to ask, they will happily let you disappear into the background of their lives. But people notice things, even if they didn't understand them. There was always an extra sandwich in the staff refrigerator that nobody claimed. In 1994, a boy named Marcus Webb couldn't afford the field trip to Columbus, and an envelope appeared in the school office with exactly enough cash inside, no name attached. Marcus went on that trip in a borrowed jacket 2 sizes too big, and he never told anyone how close he'd come to staying home. 3 years after that, a girl in the same grade, Emily Duran, showed up to school in October without a proper winter coat, wearing 3 sweaters instead, because that was what her family could manage that year. Nobody made a fuss about it. But by the 2nd week of November, a coat appeared on the hook outside the nurse's office in exactly her size, still with the tags on, and a note taped inside that just said, "Found this, seemed about right." Emily wore that coat for 3 winters. She never found out where it came from either, though years later, working as a nurse herself 2 towns over, she would tell people that the kindest thing that ever happened to her happened without a name attached to it, and she never stopped noticing the janitors after that. In 2003, the gymnasium roof started leaking, and the district said the repair would have to wait a full year for budget approval. Within a month, a contractor showed up, already paid in full, and no one at the district office could explain who had hired him. The gym reopened before the first home basketball game of the season, and the town simply assumed the paperwork had gotten lost somewhere upstream. Nobody thought to check the janitor's closet. When Ruth Calloway joked once that Ashford Elementary must have a guardian angel watching over it, Walter just smiled, picked his mop back up, and said, "The building had good bones." That was all he ever said. Ruth laughed and let it go, the way people do when a joke feels true enough not to need an answer. The years went by the way they do in a small town, a little unnoticed, one school photo at a time. Walter watched entire classes arrive as 6-year-olds and leave as 6th graders. Watched some of those same faces come back years later as parents themselves, walking their own kid through the front doors he still propped open every morning at 7:15. He kept the same route through the building every single day, the same order, the same care, whether the halls were full or empty. He retired in June of 2017 at the age of 68. The school gave him a party in the cafeteria, sheet cake, a card everyone signed, a plaque that misspelled his middle name. He thanked them, told them the honor had been entirely his, and went home to a small 1-story house on Birch Street that he had paid off in cash back in 1998, in full, all at once, without ever. For 7 more years, Walter lived exactly the way he always had, quietly. He fished on Saturday mornings, alone, at a lake 15 minutes out of town, using the same rod he had bought in 1980. He read 2 library books at a time, always returning them early. He kept adding to that same marbled composition notebook. More slowly now, living on savings and a small social security check instead of a paycheck. Elliot Marsh retired too, eventually, and handed Walter's account to a younger colleague who never met him in person, only ever spoke to him twice a year by phone, and always came away from those calls saying the same thing, that Walter Higgins was the calmest client she had ever managed, and also the only one who still insisted on getting his statements by mail, explaining to the bank teller why he seemed so unbothered writing that check. And slowly, the way it happens to careful people who never ask for attention, Thornwood simply forgot about Walter Higgins. He had spent his whole life taking care of a town that no longer thought to wonder how he was doing. Walter died in his sleep on a Tuesday in March of 2025. He was 76 years old, A neighbor noticed his newspapers piling up on the porch and called it in. He had no next of kin the county could locate until a lawyer from Columbus named Denise Okafor came forward. Walter had hired her 15 years earlier and paid her a small yearly retainer to do exactly one thing. When the time finally came, execute his will precisely as written, and personally deliver his notebook to the Ashford Elementary School board. His funeral was small, a handful of neighbors, a few former teachers who remembered him fondly without knowing much about him at all, and Ruth Calloway, who brought flowers and stood at the back, unsure why it felt like losing more than she expected to lose. Nobody at the graveside that day had any idea what was coming a month later. The board called a special session that April. Ruth sat in the front row, the school's longest-serving employee now, still unsure why she had been specifically asked to attend. Denise Okafor opened a slim leather folder and began to read. Walter Higgins' account, built $12 at a time and left alone to compound for nearly 50 years, had grown to $3,800,000. His will was simple. After a small gift to the county library and enough set aside to cover his own modest funeral, every remaining dollar was to become a permanent scholarship fund for graduates of Ashford Elementary who went on to Thornwood High and eventually to college or a trade. He asked for exactly one thing in return, that it never carry his name. He called it instead the Ashford Fund, for kids who come to school hungry and leave anyway. The room went quiet in the particular way. A room goes quiet when the number being read out loud doesn't match the man everyone remembers. Someone on the board actually asked Denise to repeat the figure, certain there had been a decimal point misplaced somewhere. There hadn't been. Attached to the will was the notebook itself. Ruth asked to hold it, and when she opened the worn, marbled cover, she found more than 50 years of numbers. Neat columns, dates going back to a full, she barely remembered herself. Dividends recorded in the same steady handwriting, whether the total that year had gone up or down. On the inside back cover, in that same careful block handwriting Walter had used his entire life, was one final note, dated the week he retired. $12 a week is nothing to a rich man, he wrote, and everything to a poor one. I was never rich. I just never stopped being patient. If you're reading this, it worked. Buy the sandwiches, fix the roof if it needs it, and don't put my name on anything. The kids never needed to know who it was. They just needed it to be there. That September, the Ashford Fund awarded its first 12 scholarships, $8,000 each, with the promise of more every single year, for as long as the fund exists. A bronze plaque went up in the main hallway, just outside the cafeteria doors Walter had mopped for 4 decades. No photograph, because none could be found. Just the last line of Walter's note, engraved exactly the way